Most people think the most important places in history are spots where massive battles were fought or where kings built giant palaces to show off their wealth. But they're wrong. The most influential spot on the entire planet isn't a battlefield. It's a simple patch of dirt under a fig tree in a small town in India called Bodh Gaya. This single spot changed the way billions of people think about life, death, and happiness. But for hundreds of years, this place was actually lost. It was buried under mud and forgotten by almost everyone. How does the most sacred site for an entire global religion just disappear? And what did explorers find when they finally started digging it back up? Today, we are going to look at the Mahabodhi Temple, a place that has survived wars, floods, and the passage of thousands of years to remain the heart of the Buddhist world. To understand why this temple exists, we have to talk about a guy named Siddhartha Gautama. He lived about 2,500 years ago, and he wasn't a monk or a teacher at first. He was a prince. He lived in a huge palace with everything you could ever want. He had the best food, the best clothes, and he never had to worry about a thing. But there was a problem. His father, the king, wanted to protect him from seeing anything sad. He kept Siddhartha behind high walls so he wouldn't know that people got old, got sick, or died. One day, Siddhartha decided to go outside the palace walls. He saw 4 things that changed his life forever. He saw an old man, a sick man, a dead body, and a monk who looked very peaceful. Siddhartha realized that no matter how much money or power you have, you can't escape suffering. This really bothered him. He couldn't go back to his easy life knowing that everyone else was struggling. So, in the middle of the night, he did something crazy. He left his wife, his newborn son, and his kingdom. He cut off his hair, traded his royal robes for rags, and went into the forest to find the meaning of life. For 6 years, he tried everything. He studied with famous teachers. He tried starving himself until he was nothing but skin and bones. He thought that if he could conquer his body, he could find the truth. But it didn't work. He realized that starving himself just made him too tired to think. He decided there had to be a middle way, not too much luxury, but not too much pain either. This led him to a place called Yeruvala, which we now know as Bodh Gaya. He sat down under a peepal tree, which is a type of fig tree, and he made a promise to himself. He said he wouldn't get up until he figured out why people suffer and how to stop it. Siddhartha sat under that tree for a long time. The stories say he sat there through storms and heat. He even faced a demon named Mara who tried to distract him with scary visions and beautiful temptations. But Siddhartha didn't budge. He stayed focused. Finally, as the morning star rose in the sky, he had a massive breakthrough. He understood the nature of the universe. He understood that our desires and our attachments are what make us unhappy. In that moment, he wasn't just Siddhartha anymore. He became the Buddha, which literally means the enlightened one or the awakened one. The spot where he sat is now the very center of the Mahabodhi Temple complex. It's the spiritual epicenter of the world for Buddhists. If you go there today, you won't just see a tree. You'll see a massive, 55-meter-tall brick tower that reaches up into the sky. It's covered in intricate carvings and surrounded by smaller shrines and statues. But it didn't always look like this. The first person to really turn this spot into a permanent monument was a man named Emperor Ashoka. Ashoka lived about 250 years after the Buddha died. He was a very powerful and very violent king at first. He conquered almost all of India through bloody wars. But after one particularly terrible battle, he looked at all the death he had caused and felt a deep sense of regret. He converted to Buddhism and decided to spend the rest of his life spreading peace. He visited Bodh Gaya and was heartbroken to find the spot where the Buddha sat wasn't properly marked. So, he built a small shrine and a stone throne to mark the exact spot of the Buddha's enlightenment. That was the beginning of the Mahabodhi Temple we see today. The temple is an architectural marvel. If you look at it from a distance, it looks like a tall, skinny pyramid. This shape is called a shikara. What's amazing is that most of it is built from bricks. While many other ancient temples were built from carved stone, the Mahabodhi Temple shows how incredible Indian brickwork was during the Gupta Empire period, which is when the main tower was mostly finished. The tower is 55 meters high, which is about 180 feet. For an ancient building made of bricks, that is huge. On each of the four corners of the main tower, there are smaller towers that look just like the big one. This creates a perfect, symmetrical look. The walls are covered in niches, which are like little built-in shelves in the wall. Inside these niches are statues of the Buddha. Some are sitting, some are standing, and they are all carved with incredible detail. When you walk through the main entrance, you feel like you are leaving the noisy, busy world of modern India and entering a different dimension. The gateway is heavy and ancient. Inside the main temple is a small room called the Inner Sanctum. It's not very big, which makes the experience feel very personal. Inside that room sits a massive statue of the Buddha. It's made of black stone, but it's covered in gold leaf. The Buddha is shown with his right hand touching the ground. This is a very famous pose. It represents the moment Siddhartha called upon the earth to be his witness when the demon Mara challenged his right to be there. Even though the temple is beautiful, the most important part of the whole place isn't actually a building. It's a tree. Behind the main temple tower stands a massive Bodhi tree. This is a Ficus religiosa, and its heart-shaped leaves are famous all over the world. Now, you might be thinking, wait, a tree can't live for 2,500 years, can it? And you're right. This isn't the exact same physical tree that the Buddha sat under, but it is a direct descendant. The history of this tree is like a spy movie. Over the centuries, several kings who hated Buddhism tried to kill the tree. One queen even had it cut down because she was jealous of how much time her husband spent there. But every time the tree was hurt, a new one was planted from a sapling of the old one. The most famous story is about Princess Sanghamitta, who was the daughter of Emperor Ashoka. She took a branch from the original Bodhi tree and traveled all the way to Sri Lanka to plant it there. Later, when the original tree in India was finally destroyed by an invading king, a cutting from the tree in Sri Lanka was brought back to Bodh Gaya and planted in the exact same spot. So, the DNA of the tree you see today is the same as the one the Buddha sat under. People wait for hours just to sit near it. If a leaf falls from the tree, it's considered a huge blessing. People don't pick the leaves, they wait for the wind to blow them down, and then they treasure them like gold. Right under the tree is a stone slab called the Vajrasana, or the Diamond Throne. This was placed there by Emperor Ashoka. It marks the unmoving point of the universe, the spot where the Buddha's mind became perfectly still. It's carved with beautiful patterns of birds and flowers, and it's considered the most sacred piece of furniture on earth. Most people don't realize that the Buddha didn't just get enlightened and then leave. He stayed in the area for 7 weeks to process what had happened to him. The Mahabodhi Temple grounds are filled with spots that mark what he did during those 49 days. During the first week, he just sat under the Bodhi tree, enjoying the feeling of being free from suffering. In the second week, he went to a spot called the Animeshloka Stupa. This is a small temple on a hill nearby. The story says he stood there for an entire week without blinking, just staring at the Bodhi tree out of gratitude. Imagine that, not blinking for 7 days because you're so thankful for a tree. In the third week, he practiced what Buddhists call walking meditation. He walked back and forth in a specific area. The legends say that wherever his feet touched the ground, lotus flowers bloomed instantly. Today, there is a raised stone path called the Kankamana, or the Cloister Walk, with stone lotus flowers carved into it to mark that path. The most dramatic story happened in the 6th week. The Buddha was meditating near a lake when a massive storm started. The wind was blowing, and the rain was pouring down. A giant king cobra named Mukhalinda lived in the lake. He saw the Buddha sitting in the rain and wanted to protect him. He wrapped his body around the Buddha 7 times and spread his giant hood over the Buddha's head like an umbrella to keep him dry. Today, there is a beautiful statue in the middle of a pond at the temple showing the Buddha sitting inside the coils of the giant snake. It's a favorite spot for visitors to take photos. This is where the story gets really sad. For over 1,000 years, the Mahabodhi Temple was the center of the world. Thousands of monks lived there. There were libraries, dormitories, and schools. But around the 12th century, things started to go wrong. Invasions from Central Asia brought armies that didn't value Buddhist sites. Many monasteries were destroyed. At the same time, Buddhism started to fade away in India as people moved toward other religions. Eventually, the monks fled, and the temple was abandoned. Because the temple is located near a river called the Falgu, it was prone to flooding. Over hundreds of years, the river brought in huge amounts of silt and sand. Because no one was there to clean it up, the mud started to pile up. The temple was literally buried. Bushes and trees grew over the mounds of dirt. If you walked past it in the year 1700, you wouldn't have seen a temple at all. You would have just seen a big, weird-looking hill with some old bricks sticking out of the top. People in the local village forgot what it was. The temple might have been lost forever if it wasn't for a few curious explorers in the 1800s. A British man named Sir Alexander Cunningham, who started the Archaeological Survey of India, became obsessed with finding the lost sites of the Buddha. He used the travel diaries of ancient Chinese monks who had visited India over 1,000 years earlier. These monks, like Xuanzang and Fa Hian, had written detailed descriptions of where the temple was and what it looked like. Cunningham and his team started digging. It was a massive project. They had to clear away tons of dirt and debris. As they dug, the Great Pyramidal Tower began to emerge from the earth. They found the diamond throne, the ancient railings, and hundreds of statues. But they weren't the only ones interested. The kings of Burma, now Myanmar, had also sent people to try and fix the temple. However, the Burmese style of fixing things was very different from the British style of archaeology. They rebuilt the top of the spire, fixed the corner turrets, and made the structure stable again. It was one of the greatest archaeological rescues in history. In 2002, the Mahabodhi Temple was named a UNESCO World Heritage Site. This means it's protected as a treasure for all of humanity, not just one country or one religion. Today, Bodh Gaya is one of the most international places you will ever visit. When you walk around the temple grounds, you hear a dozen different languages. You see monks in bright orange robes from Thailand, monks in maroon robes from Tibet, and monks in gray robes from Korea or Japan. Each country has built its own temple in the surrounding town, so Bodh Gaya feels like a World's Fair of Buddhism. You can visit a Japanese temple with a giant Buddha statue, then walk 5 minutes and see a Bhutanese temple with incredibly colorful paintings. One of the most interesting things about the temple today is how it handles modern challenges. For example, the Bodhi tree is very old and very heavy. Scientists from the Forest Research Institute of India actually monitor the tree's health. They check the soil, they prune the branches carefully, and they've even installed giant metal poles to help support the heavy limbs so they don't snap. It's a mix of ancient faith and modern science working together to keep the history alive. There is also the issue of the gold. A few years ago, the government of Thailand donated nearly 300 kilograms of gold to plate the top of the temple spire. That's a huge amount of wealth sitting out in the open. It requires 24-hour security and very careful maintenance to make sure the gold doesn't tarnish or get damaged by the elements. But the biggest challenge isn't the building itself, it's the sheer number of people. Thousands of people visit every single day. It's a constant balance between letting people experience the sacredness of the site and making sure the site survives for another 1,000 years. You don't have to be a Buddhist to find the Mahabodhi Temple incredible. It's a monument to a very human idea, that we can change ourselves. Siddhartha Gautama wasn't a god, he was a person who was unhappy with the way the world worked, and he decided to do something about it. The Mahabodhi Temple isn't just a building made of bricks and gold. It's a symbol of human potential. It's a story of survival. It's a place where time seems to slow down, and for a moment, the chaos of the modern world just fades away.